Hi, this is Dave, and I am a conspiracy theorist that would like to tell you the truth about the moon landing of 1969. As we all know, in 1969, America became the first country to place a man on the moon when Neil Armstrong stepped foot onto the moon and took one small step for man and one large leap for mankind. But was it really a large leap for mankind? Or was it just a desperate attempt by the US to beat out Russia and win the Cold War? I believe the American moon landing was false and staged, and it was an event carried out by NASA and the government in hopes of winning the Cold War against Russia and gaining an edge against the other world superpower at the time. As you all know, the moon landing was televised at the time, and there was a lot of things caught on camera that didn't add up. For one instance, the American flag when planted by Neil Armstrong was waving as if it was being blown in the wind. But as any common person knows, there is no wind in space. There's no air in space. It's a giant vacuum. So how could a flag be blowing in the wind in space? Only one explanation: it wasn't in space. Also, when you look at the spaceship that landed, there was no crater where it landed. The impact from a landed spaceship would create a crater around where it landed. This proves that the spaceship was more placed on the set than it was landed, again proving that the moon landing was false. Also, if you look at photographs of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in space, if you look in the background in the sky, you don't see any stars. This doesn't make any sense considering that the moon is a giant planet, only source of light is the sun, and it's in space. So if you were to look in the sky from the moon, you would see multiple stars. That's not the case. The sky is pitch black. Another proof of evidence that the moon landing was falsified was the shadows on the set. If you look at the shadows of the Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong in the space shuttle, it doesn't add up. It's as if there's lighting from multiple different angles and multiple different objects. Another reason why the space landing of 1969 was false was because there is evidence from Stanley Kubrick admitting to be a part of a big plot to create a false space landing. Stanley Kubrick is a director that admitted to coordinating the fake moon landing. He even claimed that in 1965, 4 years before the moon landing, he was in works with NASA and the government in preparing the set for the moon landing. In an interview with T. Patrick Murray, Stanley Kubrick said word for word, "I perpetrated a huge fraud on the American public, which I am now about to detail, involving the United States government and NASA, and the moon landings were fake, and the moon landings all were faked, and I was the person who filmed it." This is more than suffice evidence to prove that the moon landing of 1969 was in fact a huge fraud and never happened. Thank you. Hey, this is Tom, a 75-year-old NASA scientist that's been working with NASA my entire life. And I'm here to prove that the moon landing of 1968 was a historical event that can effectively be proven by factual evidence and documentation. So all the arguments or evidence that are used to support the claim that the moon landing was fake can be justified and disproven. From the waving flag to the light sources, it can all be disproven. The flag was waving because when Neil Armstrong put it into the ground, he was twisting it in motion, causing it to ripple. The lighting can be caused by the moon's surface, which is really reflective. And the reason that you cannot see stars in the background are because the pictures that were taken on space were at a very, very high quality, and if the brightness was reduced, because if the brightness was up, then the sun's light would all you would be able to see in all the photos. So the brightness had to be reduced greatly, so that all you could see in the background, so that you can make out the astronauts and the space shuttle and all the objects on the moon floor. The second reason to prove that the moon landing was in fact a factual event was that there is physical evidence that the moon landing occurred, such as moon rocks that have been verified and brought back from space. Not to mention the pictures and the videos of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin out in space moving about. Thank you. This should be more than enough information to prove that the space landing of 1969 was in fact an actual event.